Search for on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I think it's time. It's time to make it up.
Hey, dumbass.
Oh, me?
Use your smartphone and download our free iPhone and Android app to take us with you.
Okay. Can you please get off my lawn?
Located in an underground bunker somewhere in Madison, Indiana, is a different kind of podcast. Welcome to Loudmouth with your host, Dean Stidham.
And hey, everyone, I want to welcome you to Loudmouth today. Of course, my name is Dean. And it's Tuesday, 6 o'clock, close to right at 6 o'clock here in my time zone. And joining me from Alaska is Corey Porter. Hey, Corey, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. Now, I want to set this up a little bit for the listeners out there. I do a little bit of back and forth on Facebook, and I've been told by a few podcasters that I really need to quit doing this, because I'm going to run listeners off. But I'm not young and dumb. I'm old and dumb, so it's hard for me to get things through a lot of times. But anyway, a wise man once said, you got to, crack a few yolks to make an egg or an omelet, something of that nature. So anyway, Corey is on the other side, and I put out an invite for somebody to come on, and Corey was kind enough to come on. He leans a little bit to the left, and of course, most of you know I lean to the right. So with that being said, Corey, welcome to the show today. And wow, where do we start?
I don't know. You want me to come on? So I'm ready to have any discussion that you want to talk about it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I take it you're not a President Trump fan. Am I safe in saying that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his.
Okay. Can you tell me what it is about him that, go ahead.
I had to pull out a lot of different incidents, none of them which are isolated. He does them all the time. But I would like to say, morally, I do not trust him as a leader. I don't think he's a competent leader. I think he doesn't have the temperament of a leader. And I love America. And he kind of makes America look bad. He's kind of embarrassing.
Okay, when you say embarrassing, I'm not quite sure. Can you give me an example of how you feel he embarrasses America?
Well, just kind of like the obvious tactics. He's such a transparent. Obviously, he's successful. I'll give him that. Obviously, he's a massive success. But whenever he's attacking the free press all the time, it just leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. Like, why? I get it if you think the press is being unfair to you, but you probably shouldn't be so accessible that you're responding to literally everyone. And it's half the time what he's talking about is usually just words come out of his mouth, just air. He's not really ever saying anything.
That seems to be what most people on the left feel. I have to push back a little bit. I do think he is a fantastic communicator, as well as I always thought President Obama had a charisma, was very charismatic. I didn't agree with any of his policies for the most part, but I would have loved to sit down and had an opportunity to just visit with him.
What are some policies you disagreed with in that administration?
What did I disagree with him on?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I didn't get any hope and change in the 8 years that he promised.
Okay. Yeah, but what about the policies?
Okay. Do you think?
Policies.
Okay. First of all, I can't tell you any policy that I was. Were you better off under him than you are? Well, of course, you're better off probably under him than you are right now with the COVID-19. But up to the COVID-19, were you better off?
Either way, that kind of, I don't really like to entertain that kind of argument because Obama, I didn't have I couldn't vote for him. Okay, so this is like, in my adulthood, this is the only time I was able to vote. And under Obama, there's a lot of different circumstances. I wouldn't really, as a kid, I wouldn't have, been like, oh yeah, the economy's booming. I do know that Obama did successfully take over a really, really bad economy, one of the worst ever, and then helped us get back to where we need to be. So he actually had something he had to do. He had great crisis prevention, pandemic prevention, happened a couple times during his, obviously not to the extent of COVID, but he handled those easily. And the current administration, out of spite and pride, just because they didn't like that Obama made it, took away the already in place things for this kind of situation, this COVID situation, these pandemics. And then it got mishandled so bad. Obviously, you can't blame COVID on just one person, but I can hold my leaders accountable. And I would like for my president to be held accountable. He's done a terrible job at this.
Okay, what do you think? So you're telling me that you think Biden or Hillary Clinton or Obama would have done a better job, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and how would you say they would have done a better job? Because I hear this all the time.
Obama has you can just look at his last, he dealt with an actual situation and it didn't, get this far. I'm not saying the stuff he dealt with is as bad as COVID, but I am saying that crisis response with Obama was fast. And, there's other stuff he did. I'm not saying that everything one man does I'm going to agree with. That would just make me like a puppet. So, but I do think Obama was a better president, is a better president than Trump. I don't really know of anything that Trump's done except for maybe a couple things that I've actually agreed with.
Okay, can I mention a few things I think he's done? He signed 3 bills to benefit Native people. I don't. Of course, there's one. I don't know if you're on board with the space program or not. I have mixed feelings about that.
So the space program, he just changed the name of it. It was already a thing. It was already a very small branch that was underneath the Air Force. Still is, like he said. It's just called the Space Force now. It was just a part of the Air Force. It didn't have a name like that. It was a space division of the Air Force. But now it's the Space Force, still underneath the Air Force. He didn't do anything. He didn't really change anything with that. Just the name, the title, I guess. But
well,
that's almost
to
me. That was like him patting himself on the back for something that was already there. He didn't start it. No, we've had a space program in the military for quite a while.
Okay, so what about cruelty to animals? He's made that a felony now. He signed that into law.
Cruelty to animals? I agree with that. You know what? I'm not going to say I don't agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay, violent crime has fallen 2 years since he's been in office. Well, actually, he's been in 3 now.
Violent crimes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have to look those numbers up.
Well, and I don't know how you feel about CBD oil, but it's legal now. He signed that into law. 100 million.
It's not CBD oil. Oh yeah, it is legal federally now, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay, and he's
still can't use it. Can't use it in the military, which is weird, but
yeah, that's okay. You're still allowed to have an opinion. I hope anyway. I have a list. I could go on and on and on, and I think there's some great. And there's some things I'm sure Obama did just for the most part. I thought he had such a great opportunity. And I just felt like he maybe could have done a better job. How do you feel about his views on climate change, Obama?
His views on climate change?
Yes.
So climate change is a thing. Even the military knows it. There's other governments of other countries know it, and they know that it could possibly affect us in a way where things melt, and then there's a new path somewhere through the Arctic. You never know, but it's a real thing. And Obama, obviously agreed with the scientific consensus that people do contribute to climate change.
So,
he took steps in the right direction as kind of like an environmental president, to help the environment in his last years in office, and they got all taken away by Trump. Just out of I guess just because Trump disagrees. I don't know, but
I disagree with it too myself. I mean, I think I think it's way overplayed, and I think most scientists that agree with climate change, if you'll check, are probably employed by the government.
No, okay. Well, most scientists agree. Just most scientists in general agree that climate change is real. Climate change is real. Now, what people are arguing about is if it's man-made or not.
Exactly.
Now, I personally agree with the scientists say that obviously humans have contributed to climate change quite a bit, and it's almost irreversible. Can
you name me a few?
Well, I mean, you can disagree, but I don't. Why do you disagree?
Well, I know John Stossel. I don't know if you're a John Stossel fan or not. He's actually more of a libertarian than he probably is anything. He done a show, and he had 3 scientists to the right who were saying man-made climate change was a hoax, and invited all that disagreed with them to come on and argue the point, and no one would show up. And
so I've actually looked into a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of different claims. There's the claims from other scientists, and it's a lot. Most of them, almost none of them, are gonna, except for maybe a handful, are gonna say it's not man-made. It's not. There's no man-made climate change. Most scientists agree. There's also other things too. I've looked at. There's it's a. I'm trying to think of the word. It's like a stream of warm water that changed courses and it started heating up other places. And there's other things like that, variables that scientists look at as well. So I'm not saying it's just completely man-made. I'm saying it would be disingenuous to say that, people have no bearing on climate change. We haven't contributed no pollution that has affected the health of the earth or nothing like that. Toxic stuff that we pump into the environment. Yeah, it's going to affect it. And it is. Scientists agree that it is climate change.
Okay, well, we'll just agree to disagree. And I'm not saying man doesn't have some play in it, but I just think it's to make everything to try to go so green. I don't think is quite the answer either. And my question was going to be, if the ex-president Obama really felt that way, don't you think it's sort of strange if he just bought like an $8 million beachfront home?
Well, he bought some nice things. I mean,
yeah.
And on beachfront, I think it's a little more complicated than why is he buying beachfront homes? Obviously, he's not expecting the tides to rise and tides to rise while he bought a beachfront home. I get that's where you're coming from with your argument. It's not that simple. That's not what. I didn't think
it was going to be. Let me play a cut for you here. And this was a question that was raised interestingly. I think it was maybe a week back or so in one of the press conferences. I'll let you listen to this and I'll get your view on the other side.
$3.7 million transferred to the Wuhan laboratory by the National Institute of Health during the Obama administration under Fauci is now under investigation. The president just announced it. Take a look.
Thank you, Mr. President. U.S. intelligence is saying this week that the coronavirus likely came from a level 4 lab in Wuhan. There's also another report that the NIH under the Obama administration in 2015 gave that lab $3.7 million in a grant. Why would the U.S. give a grant like that to China?
The Obama administration gave them a grant of $3.7 million. I've been hearing about that. And we've instructed that if any grants are going to that area, we're looking at it literally about an hour ago and also early in the morning. We will end that grant very quickly, but it was granted quite a while ago. They were granted a substantial amount of money. We're going to look at it and take a look, but I understand it was a number of years ago, right?
Now, Corey, the reason I play that cut is I'm not there again trying to actually throw somebody into the bus. I just think anything can be taken out of context. I'm sure there's been many we know there's been many companies that have funded China, but you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. $3.7 million going to Wuhan lab. I mean, it's not like, not commonplace for, the government to be giving. I mean, I would like to know why they gave him that grant, but I don't necessarily think they gave him a grant to, cook up this disease or this virus.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely not. And I am under no way am I trying to say that.
I've seen it around the grapevine. People think that, but I just think that's a bit silly too. That's a bit too on the other side.
Absolutely. I agree.
You got to find a good middleman. Now, can I ask you a couple questions?
You sure can.
All right. So how do you support a guy who defrauded a charity for veterans?
You do what now?
How do you support a man who had a charity that turned out to be fraudulent? He used the charity money to help himself campaign. How do you support that guy? How do you defend that?
Are we talking about President Obama?
We're talking about President Trump.
Oh, okay. Because Obama didn't do that either?
No, Obama did not have a fraudulent charity. He didn't get banned from having a charity for 20 years.
Okay. Where do you think Obama got all his money?
Obama is he made his money off of his books, and he's been a political person in Illinois for quite a while.
A community organizer, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's you can get money right ways. You're not supposed to say, "Hey, this is a charity for veterans," and then use it for your personal gain. That's terrible. That's like one of the worst things I've ever heard a president do. Also, the fake universities he had. Like, what's that about? He intentionally misled people that weren't financially savvy into paying for this university that gives them business knowledge. That was just it wasn't like a transferable credit or anything. He was literally misleading people who got like money from a dead grandma who passed on something.
Well,
he did that.
I've never seen that actually proven, but I've heard that.
What about Ivanka? What about Ivanka getting a patent on these voting machines? How do you feel about that?
I've not seen that either.
She got a patent for voting machines in China.
Okay, well, I can't comment on that because I have no proof.
What about Trump's cabinet? What about the head of education and her stake in privatized prisons?
You got.
What about that?
Can you tell me who it is? Her name?
I'm pulling up a what I would call a brain fart, but I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, and you need to read me some. I mean, you're making. I mean, those are awful broad comments. Because it just. I don't know where you're going with a lot of this.
I guess where I'm going is I'm trying to push to you why I think he's a bad person, because he has shown himself to be a terrible person.
Well,
I would never.
Let me be honest.
No, I'm not trying to talk about Biden or anything. I'm trying to talk about the current president. I understand that it's coming an election. I'm going Biden because I can't wait to get this embarrassment of a man out of office. He has made our awesome.
So you literally would rather have. And there again, when it comes to Joe Biden, I think Joe would be a great person. I would love to have Joe Biden as a neighbor. But you really think,
right.
and there again, I don't agree with everything this president does and says. And I know that he has twisted facts. I get that. But I also have never in my lifetime, and I'm 61 years old, never in my lifetime have I seen anybody attacked like this president has been attacked.
This is where I would say nothing that he's being criticized for is unwarranted. Nothing people.
That's
okay.
Corey,
okay. So when I was a kid, I was in high school. I would literally see the news talking about why Barack Obama is trashy for wearing a tan suit, or why he likes Dijon mustard on his sandwich. Those are the kind of criticisms he was getting. Now, of course, that's not going to be as much or comparable to Donald Trump. Hey, what about the 1980s? You had an apartment that had a policy where you didn't let black people rent. Or, hey, you said some really crazy racist stuff to a reporter. What about that? And then all he does in response is, "Oh, they hate me. They hate me. Please don't let them take me away." It's just almost childish. And I really see the base is kind of like being misled. Like, he does not care about. He's not the working man. He's not for the working class. He's for himself. And it's just apparent. It's just obvious. I don't see how anybody else. And plus, the things he says are just so off base and outlandish. They almost have base in reality. Talking about 5G, giving you cancer, and the windmills killing. It just doesn't make any.
Now hold on. I think you're confusing things. He's not saying 5G kills people and windmills kill people.
I watched that. That's fine. There's audio of him talking about how bad the windmills are.
Well, there are people. There are people that will argue, that the windmills and of course the power lines and of course I take it that you don't like the fact that we're oil dependent right now either.
I don't actually mind it. I mean,
let me play a cut. Let me play a cut for you. I want to play another cut, and this is a little tough to hear, and I'm sure you've heard this cut before. Maybe not, because the only people that ever aired it was maybe Fox News. But I'm gonna play this cut, and we'll get your point on this on the other side.
President told Medvedev, but he stressed that it was particularly important for incoming Russian President Vladimir Putin to give him space on the missile defense system, which the U.S. and NATO want to install in Europe.
This is my last space for you. Yeah, and after my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah, I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and stand with him.
Republican presidential contender Mitt Romney said the overheard remarks.
Okay, now that might have been a little hard for you to hear, Corey. That was the hot mic situation, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. When
hot mics, whenever their microphones are on, they don't know. They don't know it.
Well, they most times they probably do know, because a hot mic is a very dangerous thing. But anyway, that's when he tapped Putin's right hand man and said, "Hey, I'll have more power when I get reelected because it'll be my last time." Now, you know as well as I do, if this president had been caught on mic saying that same thing, do you really think we wouldn't have been seeing that 24 hours a day on the news channel? And I don't need to tell you which ones.
I could hardly hear that. So if that's what he says, then yeah, it's alarming. And I'm sure if Trump did it, he would be, focused on pretty heavy, probably impeached, which is good.
Which is good.
President because Obama's not the president anymore. It's Donald Trump, and there's so many things about Donald Trump that I cannot just turn the cheek, look the other way. It's nothing. None of his things are isolated. It's every day. He's golfing all the time, tweeting all the time. Literally talking shit to reporters because he has the temperament of a 12-year-old. If it's not about him being great, he will not talk about it. He doesn't really want to talk about it. I've watched him speak. If it's not about anything positive, if anybody has any negative questions about anything, he almost always will just revert to the fake news. Mainstream media is trying to tarnish his name.
Okay, so I take it.
Obviously, media has their biases. Every media outlet's going to have their biases. But the very fact that a lot of even the right-wing media outlets are starting to think that he's a nut is starting to show me that he just don't got it. He don't got the juice like that. He's kind of like he's a moron in the king's throne, and he likes to look like the king, but he doesn't really want to do the things that the king is supposed to do. The president.
Well, I don't know if we want a king in office or not. Anyway.
Well, no, obviously it was just a metaphor. We're a democracy. It's president.
Okay, so
he wants to be the leader. He wants to look like the leader, but he doesn't want to act like the leader. He doesn't. He's not leading this country. This country really is just what is going to happen in the next 4 years if he gets reelected?
Okay, can I ask you this? Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's at home. She's writing bills, of course, the way she wants, without any input from any of the members. And now she wants to have the ability for members to vote by proxy. Now, you know what a proxy vote is, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and if not, for those out there who may not, what that just simply means is if I was doing a proxy vote and Corey was somewhere where I wasn't, I would give Corey the right to cast my vote because I cannot be present. So, right. Of course, in the meantime, the Senate, they've been back doing their job. And, during the Civil War, when it was fighting close proximity to the White House itself, Congress stayed in session. During 9/11, they stayed in session, or 9/11, I should say. And during every war, every crisis, they stayed in session. But no, not now. And, and Adam Schiff, I could go on and on. He's a leader of the House Intelligence Committee. Do you not think, and by the way, the Intel Committee, and you should know this, and I'm sure you do, they get intel that no one else gets except possibly the president. And do you not think with all the impeachment that was going on in this and that they could have missed some intel from China?
I do not.
You do not. Of course you would not. And it doesn't bother you that there's not been one investigation or committee put together to investigate what China has done?
So the CDC consensus is that the virus is not man-made.
Do what now?
Which the CDC, the people at the
CDC
have no reason to believe that the virus is man-made.
CDC is okay. CDC is what takes care of communicable diseases in this country. You might be talking about the WHO.
No, it's a CDC. It's a CDC report. I've read it.
So you think you're going on record as saying you don't think China should be investigated at all?
No, I think that there should be it should be looked into. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm assuming that they've looked into it enough to know that it doesn't seem like it's man-made. Now, would I be opposed to them investigating China? No, okay. I would not.
And I'm not just
talking.
Cool. I'm not just talking about. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about the fact of them stealing our intelligence, the fact that they're funding money, which billions of dollars to our universities in this country.
Intelligence, stuff like that is Russia does the same kind of things. They fly near certain airspace and collect as much stuff as they can. It's most countries that have that are powerful or up there are going to do that. But I agree. I think China is a terrible place, and the government's awful. The poor people, I think that I wish we could help China. I mean, I wish we could help the Chinese people investigate and figure out, why they're screwing us over. Maybe liberate them. Just kidding.
Well, McCarthy from the Senate proposed this to Nancy Pelosi, and there was bipartisan go ahead with this. And then at the last minute, she backed out. And you talk about power. I don't know how you cannot believe that Nancy Pelosi is after nothing but power. And when it comes to Adam Schiff, there's 55 pages that have been undedacted that he just refuses to release. And I think we all know why. I mean, he went on national television and said that he had talked to the whistleblower. And then, of course, he went back and said he did know who the whistleblower was. And, I want to be honest with you, Corey, I want it all out. If this president's done, I mean, it's time to get this shit out. I mean, the Obamagate, lack of a better term, that's what they're calling it now. And I'm sure you don't agree with the deep state. I have followed this for 3 years, and I was hoping, I actually thought I would be really excited when this started coming out. And I've got to be honest, I'm actually a little bit sick over it because I cannot believe, and I do believe, that the Obama administration went after this president, and I really think it's going to come out. And I think what they have done to William Barr is just apprehensible. I mean, I think the man is really on the up and up. Now, I'm sure you won't agree with that. I think General Flynn was railroaded as well.
Okay. Go
ahead.
I'm running low on time right now, Dean, but thanks for having me on here. And anytime you want to, talk to somebody leading left, I'll come on. It don't matter. Yeah.
So you need to check out on me then now?
I do. I have to. It's
okay. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and you're welcome to come back on anytime. And if nothing else, I want to say you're a stand-up guy for coming on. It sounds like we agree to disagree, but that's what it's all about, and it's free speech. And I still believe, no matter who or what tries, nothing's going to take this country down. And I appreciate your service. You take care, my friend.
All right, fuck right in the pussy.
All righty, bye bye. Okay, that was Corey, and Corey Porter, by the way, he's from Alaska, or actually living in Alaska. I had a lot more I really wanted to talk about there, but I didn't know he had prior commitments. I don't think we're ever going to change anybody's mind. I think if you're on the right, you're on the right. If you're on the left, you're on the left. And I know a lot of people, as I sort of consider myself independent, but I really do think this president has been under so much attack, his family as well. And personally, for whatever it's worth, I do believe the deep state exists. I've felt that from day one. And I get it. Flynn did admit to being guilty twice, but sometimes I think when you're backed in a corner, you do the best you think that there is to do for your family and what's left. And the fact that Obama come out, I think, was on Yahoo, was caught saying, or it leaked out about the perjury charge. I don't think perjury had anything to do with it, but I hope that it all comes out, every single bit of it. And if it's this president, whoever. And folks, let's be honest. I know a couple people that know a couple of people in Washington, and there are some very intelligent people, I'm sure, in Congress, in the Senate. But for the most part, if these people were as smart as they thought they were, I'm sure they'd be in the private sector making a hell of a lot more money. So we need to keep that in mind as well. And I think the next time people, which most of my friends on the left, I think they want more government power. Folks, everything the government touches goes to hell. It's simple as that. Private sector companies do a lot better, maybe with a little bit of government help. Hey, I don't know. Anyway, I appreciate Corey for being on. We're going to play a couple more little things here for you, but first I want to take a break and catch my breath.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
You know, by the way, getting back on the topic of China, if Corey's still listening, I do think China is responsible, and we know they're responsible for our aspirin, our penicillins, and, you know, their intel or input on the World Health Organization, I think, is controlled. There was no flights into China, by the way, when they first found out about the virus, but they allowed everyone to fly out of China and go all over the place. And I really, it just bothers me that there's not been any committees formed, any intelligence committees to take a look at this. And, you know, Joe Biden, there again, I think he's a nice guy as far as president. He'd scare the living hell out of me. But with that being said, this is what he had to say 1 year ago.
Over the last 30 years, and that's not hyperbole, virtually every one. I don't know a single solitary one who would not change places with the problems the President of the United States has versus the problems they have. China is going to eat our lunch. Come on, man. They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the west. They can't figure out how they're going to deal with the corruption that exists within the system. I mean, they're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not they're competition for us.
No, Joe, you got it wrong. They're in big time competition and they want to rule us. It's not Russia, folks. And General Flynn was right. It wasn't Russia. And Sally Yates was wrong. And her memo on her last day leaving, it's going to really, I'm afraid, get ugly. But anyway, Corey was calling out this president for being dishonest. And I've called some things he said that could be looked back on. And he had changed or did a 360 on. But listen to this.
On a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
And it is what it is. There again, I think they all have a tendency to be dishonest. Hey, that's what politicians do. It's just like the hearing today with Dr. Fauci. Elizabeth Warren, what did she say? She said there's a new cases. I think she said 25,000 cases today, or last note that she had, and actually it was 20,000. She inflated it by 5,000. She said there were 2,000 more deaths. Actually, there was 1,000 more deaths. She inflated it by 1,000. You know, it doesn't stop. And of course, then there was Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. For those of you who didn't hear that, let me play that cut for you. Now you got to listen to both parts of this, because you're going to hear William Barr in the first part of this cut as he's talking to Peggy Noonan, which I have a lot of respect for Peggy. I think she's, for the most part, straight up. Chuck Todd, totally different feelings towards him and MSLSD. But anyway, listen to the first cut and then listen to the second. And most of you probably have already heard this.
Bill Barr. Peggy Noonan, I want you to listen to this Bill Barr answer to a question about what will history say about this. Wait till you hear this answer. Take a listen.
When history looks back on the decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history is written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
I was struck, Peggy, by the cynicism of the answer. It's a correct answer, but he's the Attorney General. He didn't make the case that he was upholding the rule of law. He was almost admitting that, yeah, this is a political job.
Well, history is written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history. But I think a fair history would say it was a good decision because it upheld the rule of law. It upheld the standards of the Department of Justice, and it undid what was an injustice.
And there again, the second part of that cut was the actual original whole cut when he said that it will be written fairly. And that was done by CBS News 4 days prior to Chuck Dodd and MSNBC putting together the Meet the Press show. But anyway, it just goes on and on and on. And it's we're all going to be left to make up our own minds. And it seems like, and it's going to be tough, especially if you're in the middle. But I really, really think you really need to dig deep on this and both sides and fact check a lot of things. Because it can be fact checked and checked out. Anyway, I'm going to close out here in just a minute with a couple more of my thoughts. And we'll do that right after this.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
And we're pretty well going to get on out of here. Just remember, folks, it's really going to get interesting, and I hope they get to the bottom of the I don't know if it's good to call it the Obama Gate, the Deep South, whatever, but it is a fact that Bill Flynn, he did tell the Obama administration, Susan Rice, prior to them leaving, that China was the biggest threat. And this man had served for 33 years. I don't know why he would have had anything to do with Russia, but that's my take. It's all going to come out. It gets so deep, it would take forever for me to cover it, and I ain't smart enough to get into it anyway. So, hey, you guys will dig it out. You'll figure it out for yourself. I do want to mention a couple of things real quick. Good Samaritan, which is under the leadership of Franklin Graham, I guess you do know, they went to New York and set up tents to help when New York was getting hammered. I thought it was pretty unfair, as Governor Cuomo kept talking about how we will pay these nurses and doctors back who come from other states to help. They paid them back all right. They hit them with New York taxes from their paychecks prior to leaving. And taxes are pretty high in New York, so there was a little bit of a thank you. And also, a little bit torn on this. Airlines, I guess, some of the airlines are giving out free airfare to the doctors and nurses in New York whenever this is all said and done to fly anywhere in the United States. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's a good thing. You don't want to slam somebody down for any time they do something good. I'm sure there's a lot of doctors and nurses in other states that might feel, well, we did as much as anybody else. But that being said, I still am looking for the refund on my tickets, which I guess I will never get because I'm never going to be able to use them, but they're not going to refund. They say I can go somewhere within the next year. But anyway, to my brothers and sisters out there who are still on the front lines, I miss you guys, and you guys stay safe. And honestly, it's crazy times we're in. I'd love to see us all get back to work. And I comment on probably on a lot of things that I'm not real savvy to because I'm not on the outside. And any of my coworkers, technically still coworkers, so ever want to call and give me your input, I love to have it. You guys all stay safe. And without you guys, ain't none of this stuff be possible. I do want to thank Corey for coming on today. He did take, I offered it. He's the first person ever from the other side to actually come on. So I do appreciate that. I wish he could have stayed a little bit longer. I had a few more things I wanted to talk to him about. But anyway, hey, have a great day. We will talk to you real soon in the future. My name is Dean. This is Loudmouth. You can find us on YouTube at Loudmouth Dean. And also, we are available, loudmouthdean.com, on the audio side, on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, and the list goes on and on. Hey, everyone, have a great Tuesday evening, and thanks for listening.